When flames consumed Reaper's house at 2 a.m., everyone assumed the little girl inside was gone. But a homeless boy named Marcus, the kid the neighborhood called Trash, saw something no one else did: Lily's shadow in the upstairs window. While her father Reaper and his Hell's Angels brothers stood frozen, watching their world burn, Marcus made a choice that would cost him everything. What happened next didn't just shock the motorcycle club, it exposed a debt that could never be repaid. Some rescues demand a price. This one demanded blood. Welcome to Hell's Angels family. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because this story is about to take you on a ride you won't forget. To my day one subscribers, my real ones who've been here from the start, I love y'all. Thank you for showing up every single time. Before we jump in, let me pray over you real quick. God, I'm asking you right now to bless every single person watching this. Cover them with your protection. Bless their family, their health, their finances. Give them peace in the storm and strength when they feel weak. Let miracles happen in their life today, in Jesus' name. Amen. Now let's get into it. Because what you're about to hear isn't just a story about saving a life. It's a story about what happens when a homeless boy everyone ignored becomes the one person a biker and his brothers would go to war for, and the greed that tried to destroy them all. Marcus's shopping cart rattled against the cracked sidewalk, each wheel singing its own off-key note into the 2 a.m. silence. 14 aluminum cans. That's all he'd found tonight, wandering Ridgewood Avenue like a ghost nobody wanted to see. His stomach had stopped growling hours ago, settling into the familiar hollow ache he'd learned to ignore. The abandoned warehouse where he slept was still 6 blocks away. Marcus pulled his thin jacket tighter against the autumn cold, his breath forming small clouds that disappeared as quickly as they came. October nights in this part of town could cut through skin, especially when skin was all you had between you and the world. He'd walked this route 100 times, memorizing every house, every corner, every place where people looked through him like he didn't exist. The Martinez house, no, Reaper's house, sat halfway down the block, its porch light always on. Marcus had seen the big man with the leather vest come and go, had watched him laugh with his daughter, a little girl with blonde pigtails who sometimes played in the front yard. The girl's name was Lily. Marcus knew because he'd heard Reaper call to her once, his voice rough, but warm in a way that made Marcus's chest hurt with something he didn't have words for. Tonight, that porch light flickered orange. Marcus stopped walking. The cart's wheels fell silent. Orange light shouldn't flicker like that. Orange light shouldn't be dancing behind windows, shouldn't be reaching toward the sky like hungry fingers. His brain processed what his eyes were seeing half a second before his heart understood. Fire. Then he heard the screaming. Lily, Lily, baby, daddy's coming. Reaper's voice tore through the night, raw and desperate, the kind of sound that comes from a soul being ripped apart. Marcus's feet moved before his mind caught up, abandoning his cart as he ran toward the burning house. The scene materialized like a nightmare. Flames consumed the second floor, angry and bright, turning night into terrible day. Reaper stood on the front lawn in nothing but jeans, his muscular frame silhouetted against the inferno that had been his home. 3 other men in leather vests surrounded him, his brothers, Marcus had heard people call them. Their hands gripping Reaper's arms as he fought to charge back inside. Let me go? My daughter's in there. Lily, brother, you can't. The whole damn staircase is gone. I don't care. That's my baby girl. Smoke poured from broken windows. The sound of wood cracking, glass shattering, and flames roaring filled the air with chaos. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer but not close enough. Never close enough. Marcus's eyes tracked upward, pulled by instinct or fate or something he'd never be able to explain. Through the smoke-stained glass of the second-floor window, he saw her. Lily, her small face pressed against the glass, hands splayed wide, mouth open in a scream nobody could hear over the roar of destruction. Behind her, orange light danced and swirled, growing brighter, hungrier, closer. The grown men on the lawn hadn't seen her yet. They were focused on Reaper, on holding him back, on the impossible situation that had no good answer. They were frozen in their helplessness, strong men made powerless by fire and physics and fear. But Marcus saw her, and Marcus had nothing left to lose. He didn't think about the pain, didn't calculate his chances, didn't consider that he was just a kid, that he was nobody, that the world had already decided he didn't matter. He thought about one thing only. That little girl had smiled at him once, 3 months ago, when he was digging through trash behind the grocery store. She'd been walking with her father, and she'd looked at him, really looked at him, and smiled like he was human. Marcus ran. "Hey, kid, what the hell?" One of the bikers spotted him, but Marcus was already at the front door, already pushing through, already swallowed by smoke so thick it felt like drowning in darkness. Heat slammed into him like a physical wall. The world became orange and black, roaring and crackling, alive with violence. He dropped to his hands and knees where the air was clearer, crawling across the floor that was already starting to buckle. Somewhere above him, the staircase was gone, but there had to be another way. There was always another way. The kitchen, the back stairs. Marcus had seen them once when he'd snuck around the house looking for bottles. Those stairs were narrower, older, made of metal. Metal didn't burn like wood. He crawled faster, his lungs screaming, his eyes streaming tears that evaporated in the heat. His hands found the kitchen doorway. Through the smoke, he spotted the back staircase, flames licking at its edges but not yet consuming it. Marcus lunged forward and grabbed the railing. The metal seared his palm. He didn't let go. 1 step, 2 steps, 5, 10. The world narrowed to nothing but the next step, the next breath, the next second of not giving up. Smoke filled his lungs. His skin felt like it was cooking. The stairs groaned beneath his weight. Metal warping from heat it was never meant to endure. Then he was at the top. The hallway was a tunnel of fire, but he could see the door, Lily's door, still closed, still holding back the worst of it. "Lily." His voice came out as a rasp, barely audible. He reached the door and turned the handle. It burned him. He didn't care. The door swung open, and there she was, pressed against the window, sobbing, her stuffed bunny clutched to her chest. She turned, eyes wide with terror, and saw him. This strange boy, this homeless kid she'd smiled at once. "It's okay," Marcus choked out, even though nothing was okay, even though they might both die here. "I got you." He scooped her up in his arms, feeling how small she was, how fragile. Lily wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face against his shoulder. The hallway was collapsing. The metal stairs were their only chance. Marcus turned back toward them just as part of the ceiling gave way, raining embers and burning debris. He felt something heavy slam into his back, felt fire kiss his skin and bite deep. He ran anyway, down the stairs, each step threatening to give way. Through the kitchen, flames reaching for them from all sides. Toward the front door, toward the voices shouting outside, toward the fresh air that seemed impossibly far away. Marcus burst through the doorway and onto the lawn. He took 3 stumbling steps before his legs gave out. He fell to his knees, arms still wrapped around Lily, and carefully, so carefully, set her down on the grass. "Daddy!" Lily screamed. Reaper was there instantly, dropping to his knees, pulling his daughter into his arms, checking her for injuries with shaking hands. Baby, you're okay, you're..." His eyes found Marcus, still kneeling, still trying to breathe, still trying to convince his body it had survived. Reaper's expression shifted from relief to shock to something Marcus couldn't name. You went in there. You saved." Marcus tried to answer, but the world tilted sideways. He looked down and saw his hands, blistered and bleeding. Saw his arms, angry red and peeling. Felt the pain in his back where the ceiling had struck him, where fire had claimed its price. The paramedics were running toward them now, shouting instructions, carrying equipment. Marcus's vision blurred. The last thing he saw was Lily's face, safe in her father's arms, looking back at him with wide, tear-filled eyes. The last thing he heard was someone shouting, "We're losing him." Then darkness swallowed everything whole. When the doctors pulled back the curtain, Reaper didn't see a boy. He saw a burnt, broken body that had traded itself for his daughter's life. Machines beeped where a heartbeat should have been steady. Tubes had replaced the air Marcus fought for in that burning house. The same neighbors who'd crossed the street to avoid him were now whispering his name like a ghost story in the waiting room. But the real shock wasn't the fire. It was what came after, when the hospital refused to treat Marcus any longer, and Reaper realized the boy who saved Lily was about to be abandoned again. Reaper stared at the blood on his hands. It wasn't his. It wasn't Lily's. It was Marcus's. It streaked across his knuckles, dark and half-dried, caught in the lines of his skin like it had always belonged there. He sat in the hard plastic chair of the emergency room waiting area, elbows on his knees, head bowed, leather vest still stinking of smoke. Around him, life went on in flickering fluorescent light. A crying baby in the corner. A woman arguing on the phone. The soft drone of a TV no one watched. But to Reaper, it all sounded far away, like he was underwater. Beside him, Lily held his hand in both of hers. Her hair smelled like smoke and hospital soap. Someone had wrapped her in a blanket with cartoon bears on it, and a nurse had pressed a stuffed giraffe into her arms. She hadn't let go of it. Or him. Daddy. Her voice was small, shaky. Is he gonna die? Reaper's throat tightened. He looked down at her, at that little face he'd been sure he'd never see again. A face he owed to a boy he'd barely noticed before tonight. I don't know, baby, he answered honestly. His voice sounded like gravel. They're doing everything they can. Lily blinked, eyes shining. He went in the fire for me. I know. Reaper swallowed hard. I know, Lilybug. Her tiny fingers squeezed his hand like she was trying to keep him from slipping away too. Across the waiting room, 3 men in matching leather vests paced restlessly. Tank, Crow, and Diesel. His brothers. His family. The ones who had dragged him out of the fire when he tried to follow Lily into the flames. Tank's heavy boots thudded across the tile as he walked back and forth, tattoos dancing on his thick forearms. Crow leaned against the wall, arms folded, jaw set. Diesel sat apart from the others, elbow on his knee, picking at a scab on his knuckle, eyes dark with something that looked a lot like guilt. The double doors to the trauma bay swung open with a metallic squeak. A doctor stepped out, stripping off bloody gloves, his expression guarded. He scanned the room, and his gaze landed on Reaper, the big biker with the haunted eyes, and the little girl glued to his side. Family of the boy from the house fire? The doctor asked. Reaper stood before his brain, even told his body to move. Yeah, that's us. It wasn't true. Not yet. But it felt wrong to say anything else. The doctor approached, clipboard tucked under his arm. His name tag read Hernandez. He looked tired in a way Reaper recognized, like a man who'd seen too many last breaths. How is he? Reaper asked. Marcus. The kid's name is Marcus. Dr. Hernandez nodded slowly. Marcus has extensive third-degree burns on his arms, back, and shoulders. Significant smoke inhalation. A concussion from falling debris. He's in critical condition, but he's alive. We have him intubated and sedated. Lily's breath hitched. She squeezed Reaper's hand harder. Can I see him? Reaper's voice was rough. In a moment, the doctor said. He hesitated, then added, Are you his legal guardian? Parent? Relative? The question hit like a punch. Reaper's mouth opened. Nothing came out. No. Tank cut in from behind him. He's a street kid. Homeless. Dr. Hernandez's jaw tightened. Then we have a problem. Reaper's shoulders squared. That tone. He didn't like it. What kind of problem? He asked. Marcus is a minor with no listed next of kin, the doctor said carefully. We've done everything we can in the emergency phase, but for longer-term care, skin grafts, ventilator time, ICU bed, the costs are substantial. Protocol requires a legal guardian or state representative. Reaper frowned. So call the state. Call whoever you gotta call. We have, Hernandez said. Child Protective Services has been notified. But there's another issue. He shifted his clipboard, glancing at Lily, then back at Reaper. Marcus has no insurance. No registered address. No prior medical records in our system. Technically, he doesn't exist on paper. Reaper took a step closer. He existed enough to drag my kid out of a burning house. The doctor held his gaze. He didn't back down, but his eyes softened just a fraction. I know, and I'm not saying we're throwing him out on the street. I'm telling you that we're at the edge of what this hospital can do without someone taking responsibility for him. Lily's voice quivered. Daddy, they can't just let him die. Right. Reaper looked down at her, then back at the doctor. What happens if nobody steps up? He asked quietly. Hernandez exhaled. The state will eventually assume custody, but that process takes time. Until then, we stabilize him as best we can with limited interventions. He lowered his voice. It won't be enough. Not for injuries like his. The meaning settled over Reaper like fresh ash. If nobody claimed Marcus, the boy who ran through fire for Lily might survive the flames only to die slowly in a corner bed because no one signed a few damn papers. Show me where to sign, Reaper said. Tank swore under his breath. Reaper cut him a look that ended the protest. I'll take responsibility, he said, eyes back on Hernandez. Whatever it costs. You don't stop because of money. Not with him. Not after what he did. The doctor studied him for a long moment, taking in the leather vest, the patches, the worn knuckles. Then he nodded. All right, he said. There's paperwork. I'll have admissions bring it out. You can see him now. But prepare yourself. He doesn't look like a kid right now. As they turned toward the swinging doors, Reaper heard Lily's soft voice behind him. Daddy, she whispered, can we help him? Reaper looked back at her. Smoke had smeared streaks on her cheeks. Her eyes were too old for 8. Yeah, baby, he said. We're gonna try. Like and subscribe for more powerful, life-changing stories. The ICU smelled like antiseptic and quiet suffering. Machines beeped in slow, steady rhythms. Soft blue lights glowed near the floor, painting the hallway in ghostly shadows. A nurse led them to a curtained-off room, speaking in hushed tones that felt more fitting for a funeral than a hospital. Only a few minutes, she said to Reaper. And just one at a time. I want to see him, Lily whispered, clutching the giraffe. The nurse hesitated. Sweetheart, he's very hurt. It might be scary. Lily shook her head, jaw trembling, but set. He wasn't scared to come get me. Reaper's chest ached. The nurse glanced at him. He nodded once. She sees him, he said. With me. The curtain scraped along the metal rail as the nurse pulled it back. Reaper had seen ugly things. Bar fights gone wrong. Road accidents. A man beaten so badly you couldn't recognize him until he spoke. But nothing had prepared him for Marcus. The boy lay motionless on the bed, swallowed by tubes and bandages. Clear plastic covered angry red burns on his arms and shoulders. A ventilator tube snaked down his throat, taped in place. White dressings wrapped his chest. For lines fed into his bruised hand. His hair was singed on one side, scalp mottled and raw. If Reaper hadn't known, he might not have recognized him as the kid who pushed a cart of cans past his house every night. Lily's hand squeezed his so tight it hurt. That's him, she said, voice breaking. Daddy, that's Marcus. Reaper stepped closer, the weight of his boots feeling wrong on this polished floor. He reached the side of the bed and stared down at the boy. Hey kid, he said softly. It's Reaper, the idiot who couldn't get to his own daughter. Lily shuddered beside him. You were brave, she whispered. Braver than everybody. Marcus didn't move. The ventilator hissed, in and out, in and out. Reaper cleared his throat. Doc says you're a tough little bastard, he muttered. Says you're fighting. That's good. 'Cause we're not done, you and me. The nurse faded into the background, giving them a moment. Daddy, Lily asked. Where's his mom? Or his dad? Reaper swallowed. He doesn't have any, baby. Lily frowned, eyes never leaving Marcus's bandaged face. So he was alone? Reaper felt the word like a blade. Alone. The same way he'd felt when cancer took his wife and left him raising Lily with nothing but rage and motorcycles to lean on. Not anymore, he said quietly. Lily shifted closer to the bed. Gently, like she was afraid to break him, she reached out and placed her stuffed giraffe beside Marcus's arm. For you, she whispered. So you don't have to be scared. Reaper's vision blurred for a moment. He blinked it away. If this moment hit you, like and subscribe to support more stories. A voice cleared at the doorway. Sir. Reaper turned. A woman in scrubs and a lanyard stood there, clutching a clipboard. Her badge read admissions. We need to handle the consent and financial responsibility forms for Marcus. Reaper nodded. Yeah, let's do it. Lily looked up at him, panic flickering in her eyes. You're not leaving him, are you? Reaper dropped a hand to her head, smoothing smoke-tangled hair. I'll be right outside, he said. You stay here and talk to him. Tell him about your stuffed animals. He needs to hear a kid, not a grumpy old biker. Lily managed a wobbly smile. You're not that old. He forced a smile back and followed the admissions woman into a small side room. The door shut behind them with a soft click that sounded too final. She sat, flipped open a folder, and slid a stack of forms toward him. Mr. Reaper, she asked awkwardly. He huffed. On paper it's Elias Martinez, but everyone calls me Reaper. Mr. Martinez, she corrected herself. To proceed with full treatment, burn unit transfer, multiple surgeries, we need a guarantor. Someone legally accepting financial responsibility. Reaper glanced at the forms. Lines of fine print swam before his eyes. What kind of numbers are we talking? He asked. The woman hesitated. It's early to say, but with the extent of his injuries, ICU stay, skin grafts, rehab, easily into 6 figures. Possibly more. 6 figures. Reaper thought of the club's cash, of his savings, of the mortgage, of Lily's college fund his wife had started before everything went sideways. His jaw clenched. And without this, he asked. He'll receive basic stabilization, she said carefully. But not the full extent of reconstructive care he needs. It will impact his chances of survival. He picked up the pen. His hand shook, not from fear, but from the weight of the choice. He'd buried his wife. He'd almost buried his daughter tonight. Now he was staring at a line that might decide whether the boy who saved Lily lived long enough to be more than a tragic headline. Elias Reaper Martinez signed. As the pen scratched across the page, something settled in his chest. A decision he couldn't take back. A line crossed. The woman collected the forms. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. We'll move him to the burn unit as soon as possible. CPS has been notified as well. They'll likely want to talk to you. About what? He asked. About why you signed for a child that isn't yours. Her words hung in the air as she left. Reaper stared at the closed door, then at his ink-stained hand. Why? Because no one had signed for him when he was that kid. Because the system didn't come for boys like Marcus until it was too late. Because his daughter was alive and breathing down the hall, and it wasn't right that the boy who made that possible might be discarded like trash. He pushed to his feet and headed back to Marcus's room. As he drew near, he heard Lily's voice, soft and earnest. And this one is Mr. Giraffe, and he's brave like you. And Daddy says you're family now, 'cause you saved me. Family. Reaper stopped just short of the curtain. Did I say that? He wondered. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he just thought it so loudly that Lily had heard it anyway. He pulled the curtain back. Lily sat on the chair, legs dangling. She'd lined up her stuffed giraffe and a tiny rubber duck on Marcus's blanket, like they were standing guard. Her hair was still singed at the ends. Smoke had settled into the seams of her hoodie, but there was light in her eyes again. Daddy, she said, I told him we're not going to leave. Damn right we're not, Reaper murmured, moving to the other side of the bed. He wrapped his rough hand around Marcus's uninjured one, careful not to disturb the four. Listen, kid, he said, voice low. I just signed a whole stack of paper on you. That means you don't get to check out on me, you hear? You dragged my little girl out of hell. Now you fight your way back. The machines beeped steadily. No answer. No movement. Reaper leaned a little closer. You're not alone anymore, Marcus, he whispered. Whether you like it or not. Something flickered on the monitor, just a tiny jump. The nurse glanced at it, then back at the boy. Her brow furrowed, like she'd seen something similar before. Marcus didn't open his eyes. His chest rose and fell with the ventilator's hiss. The burns didn't magically heal, but under Reaper's hand, his fingers twitched. Just once. Lily gasped. Daddy. He moved. Reaper froze, afraid to believe it. The nurse hurried over, checking the readings. Could be reflex, she murmured. Or, Marcus's eyelids fluttered. Not fully open. Not consciousness. Just a ghost of a movement. A hint that somewhere beneath the drugs and damage, the boy who ran into fire was still fighting. Reaper's heart slammed against his ribs. Easy, kid, he said, squeezing gently. You're safe. You did it. Lily's okay. Rest now. The monitor steadied again. The flicker faded. But Reaper had seen it. Lily had seen it. Hope, small and stubborn, took root in the sterile ICU air. If you're still watching, like and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. An hour later, a detective in a wrinkled suit stepped into the waiting room, badge glinting under fluorescent lights. "Elias Martinez?" he called. Reaper looked up from Lily, who had finally fallen asleep with her head on his leg. Tank and Crow tensed, instinctively straightening when they saw the badge. "Who's asking?" Reaper said. "Detective Harris." The man flashed his ID. "I need to talk to you about the boy from the fire." "Marcus." Reaper's jaw tightened. "What about him?" Harris flipped open a small notebook. "We ran his prints. Kid's been in the system. Group homes. Juvenile shelters. Couple of shoplifting reports. And there's an active juvenile warrant out on him for running from a state facility." Reaper stared at him. "A warrant," he repeated flatly. "For the kid who just saved my daughter's life." "That's not my call," Harris said, not unkindly. "My job's to follow the law. CPS will take custody as soon as he's medically stable. Until then, we're to notify them of any visitors who attempt to interfere." The words landed like a fresh blow. CPS will take custody. They'd drag Marcus out of a hospital bed, patch him up just enough to ship him back into the same system that had let him freeze and starve in alleys. Over Reaper's shoulder, through the glass, he could see the vague outline of Marcus's room. Tubes. Wires. A giraffe on the blanket. "Detective," Reaper said slowly, "I just put my name on his medical bills. I'm the one keeping him alive. And you're telling me the minute he can breathe on his own, the state's taking him?" "That's the procedure," Harris said. "He's a ward of the state. He doesn't get to choose where he goes." Lily stirred, mumbling Marcus's name in her sleep. Reaper's fist curled. "What if someone else wants to take responsibility?" he asked. Harris blinked. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Reaper growled, "that boy went into a burning building for my kid. If he's going to have a last name, maybe it ought to be mine." Tank swore under his breath. Crow's eyebrows shot up. Diesel looked like someone had slapped him. Harris stared at Reaper like he wasn't sure he'd heard right. "You're talking about guardianship," he said slowly. "Adoption, even. You have any idea what that process looks like for someone with your record?" Reaper's gaze went cold. "Guess I'm about to find out," he said. Harris closed his notebook, studying him with new eyes. "CPS is going to eat you alive," he warned. "They'll drag up everything. Every charge. Every bar fight. Every rumor about your club." Reaper glanced at Lily asleep on his lap. At the smudge of ash still on her cheek. At the chair down the hall where a broken boy lay alone. "Yeah," he said quietly. "They can come for me." He lifted his eyes back to the detective. "But they're not taking that kid without going through hell to do it." Harris held his gaze for a long moment. Then he sighed. The sound of a man stepping into a storm he couldn't stop. "I'll note your interest," he said. "But don't expect miracles, Martinez. The state doesn't like surprises. Or bikers." He turned to go, then paused. "Just so you understand," he added without looking back, "if CPS gets there first, they decide everything. Where he goes, who he sees, even whether you're allowed to talk to him again." Reaper's blood ran cold. "Meaning?" he asked. "Meaning," Harris said, "by this time tomorrow, that boy could be gone from this hospital and out of your reach." He walked away, leaving Reaper frozen in the too bright corridor, one hand resting on his sleeping daughter's hair, the other still stained with the blood of the boy the system was already trying to take. Outside Marcus's room, machines kept breathing for him. Inside Reaper, something old and dangerous woke up. Not the rage that started bar fights. Not the emptiness that came after his wife died. Something different. A promise. And as the night shift changed and the hospital lights dimmed, one thing became terrifyingly clear. Saving Marcus from the fire had been the easy part. Keeping him from being taken might start a war Reaper couldn't walk away from. The clubhouse smelled like oil, leather, and old whiskey when Reaper called the emergency meeting. Brothers who'd ridden together for decades filled the room. Men who'd survived wars, prison, and worse. But when Reaper stood before them and announced he was taking guardianship of a homeless kid, the silence was deafening. Some called it crazy. Others called it suicide. One older member saw something else. A chance to honor the code they'd all sworn to live by. What happened next didn't just change Marcus's life. It forced the Hells Angels to ask themselves a question they'd been avoiding for years. What does protect your own really mean when the system comes knocking? The clubhouse sat at the edge of town where streetlights gave up and gravel took over. A squat building with peeling paint, barred windows, and a parking lot full of chrome and thunder. Inside, wood-paneled walls held decades of photographs. Brothers who'd ridden, brothers who'd fallen, brothers whose names were carved into the bar top like prayers. Tonight, every seat was filled. Reaper stood at the head of the long table, Lily asleep in a back room under the watchful eye of Rosie, the club's unofficial den mother. 15 men in leather vests surrounded him, their faces lit by the glow of hanging bulbs and the neon beer signs that never turned off. Tank leaned back in his chair, arms crossed over his barrel chest. Crow sat forward, elbows on the table. Diesel chewed a toothpick, eyes distant. Others, wrench, bones, smoke, hammer, watched Reaper with varying degrees of concern and curiosity. At the far end sat Preacher, the oldest among them. 73, gray beard down to his chest, hands scarred from 50 years of living hard. He'd founded this chapter back when the world was different, meaner, simpler. His vote carried weight no gavel could match. "Brothers," Reaper began, his voice rough from smoke and sleeplessness. "I called this meeting because I need the club's backing on something." Tank raised an eyebrow. "This about the fire?" "It's about the kid who went into it," Reaper said. Murmurs rippled through the room. "Marcus," Crow said. "Homeless kid, right? The one in ICU." Reaper nodded. "He pulled Lily out when none of us could. Took burns over 40% of his body. Broke bones. Nearly died." He paused, jaw tight. "And now CPS wants to take him the second he's stable enough to move." Diesel frowned. "Take him where?" "State facility. Group home. Whatever hole they got waiting for kids nobody wants." Reaper's fists clenched on the table. Same system that already failed him once. That's why he was on the streets. Silence settled heavy. Wrench, a wiry man with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, spoke up. "What are you asking, Reap? Money for his medical bills?" "We can pass the hat." "I already covered the bills," Reaper said. "What I'm asking is bigger." He let the words hang for a beat. "I'm filing for emergency custody. Maybe permanent guardianship down the line." His eyes swept the table. "And I need this club to stand behind me when CPS comes asking questions. Because they will." The murmurs turned to outright conversation. Brothers exchanged looks, some skeptical, some surprised, some unreadable. "Custody," Tank repeated. "Brother, you know what that means? You're talking about taking responsibility for a kid who ain't yours. A kid with a record. A kid who saved my daughter's life," Reaper shot back. "Nobody's denying that," Crow said carefully. "But you're talking about going up against the state. They're going to dig into everything. Your record, the club's history, every rumor, every arrest, every bar fight." Bones, a quiet man with tattooed knuckles, added, "They'll use us against you, Reap. Say we're criminals. Say you're unfit." "Let them," Reaper said flatly. The room went quiet again. Preacher's chair creaked as he shifted forward. His voice, when it came, was like gravel rolling downhill. "What's the boy to you?" he asked. Reaper met the old man's gaze. "He's the kid who lived our code better than we did." Preacher's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "We say we protect our own," Reaper said. "We wear it on our vests, ink it on our skin. But when it mattered, when Lily was trapped in that fire, I froze. You all saw it. I was ready to charge into hell, but I couldn't get past the flames." His voice cracked, just slightly. Marcus didn't freeze. He didn't have brothers holding him back or telling him it was suicide. He just saw a kid in danger, and he moved. No hesitation. No backup. Just him and a choice. Diesel pulled the toothpick from his mouth. "So what? You feel guilty." "Damn right I feel guilty," Reaper snapped. "But it's more than that. Marcus doesn't have anybody. No family. No safety net. Just a system that's already chewed him up once." He looked around the table. "If we let them take him, we're no different than everyone else who looked the other way." Tank scratched his beard. "You're talking about changing your whole life, brother. Raising 2 kids. Fighting the state. All for a boy you don't even know. I know enough, Reaper said. I know he's got more heart than most men twice his size. I know Lily's alive because of him. And I know if we don't step up, nobody will. Smoke, a younger member with wild red hair, leaned forward. What if CPS won't let you? What if they block it? Then I fight, Reaper said simply. But I can't do it alone. Not against them. Preacher tapped a gnarled finger on the table, the sound sharp in the tense air. Let me tell you a story, the old man said. The room stilled. When Preacher spoke, you listened. 1968, he began. I was 19, just back from Vietnam with a head full of screams and a habit I couldn't shake. No family, no money. Sleeping under bridges and stealing to eat. He paused, eyes distant. One night, I tried to rob a biker outside a bar in Tucson. Big guy, mean looking. I pulled a knife and told him to empty his pockets. Preacher's lips twitched. You know what he did? No one answered. He bought me dinner, Preacher said. Took me to a diner, fed me, and told me I had two choices. Keep running until I died in a gutter, or ride with men who'd give me a reason to live. He looked at Reaper. That biker was named Rattlesnake. He's been dead 30 years. But I'm still here because he didn't walk away when he could have. The weight of the story settled over them. This club, Preacher continued, was built on men who got second chances. Men the world threw away. If we turn our backs on this boy now, we spit on everything Rattlesnake and every other founder stood for. Hammer, a broad man with a shaved head, spoke up. So what are you saying, Preach? I'm saying Reaper's right. Preacher's voice hardened. We protect our own. And if that kid ran into fire for one of ours, then he is one of ours. Silence. Then Diesel nodded. I'm in. Crow sighed. Yeah, me too. Tank looked at Reaper for a long moment, then grunted. Hell, somebody's got to keep you from doing something stupid alone. One by one, hands went up. Votes cast without words. Brotherhood solidified in nods and locked eyes. Preacher slammed his palm on the table. Motion carries, he said. Reaper, you file for custody. We back you. Club funds cover legal fees if it comes to that. And if CPS wants a fight. His grin was sharp and cold. We give them one they'll remember. Reaper's chest tightened. He nodded once, unable to trust his voice. Tank stood, clapping him on the shoulder. You're going to need a lawyer, brother. A good one. I know a guy, Crow said. Used to ride with a chapter up north. Works family law now. Owes me a favor. Get him on the phone, Reaper said. Like and subscribe to see how this family fights back. 2 days later, Reaper sat in a cramped office that smelled like old coffee and desperation. The lawyer, a thin man named Garrett with silver-rimmed glasses and a faded club tattoo on his forearm, shuffled through papers with the efficiency of someone who'd seen every ugly corner of the system. You understand what you're up against? Garrett asked, not looking up. Enlighten me, Reaper said. Garrett leaned back, tapping a pen against his desk. CPS is going to argue you're unfit. They'll cite your arrest record, assault, disorderly conduct, that weapons charge from 2019. They'll bring up the club, paint you as a criminal. I've been clean for 3 years, Reaper said. Doesn't matter. To them, once a criminal, always a criminal. Garrett flipped a page. They'll also question your ability to provide a stable home. You're a single father. You work irregular hours. You associate with a motorcycle club. So what's the play? Reaper asked. We build a case that Marcus is better off with you than in the system, Garrett said. Character witnesses. Proof of financial stability. Evidence that you can provide structure, safety, and emotional support. I can do all that. Can you? Garrett's eyes sharpened. Because CPS will dig. They'll interview neighbors, teachers if Lily's in school, anyone who's ever seen you lose your temper. One slip, one bad reference, and they'll bury you. Reaper's jaw worked. Then we don't slip. Garrett studied him. Why are you doing this? Really? Reaper thought of Marcus's burned hands. Of Lily's voice saying he wasn't scared to come get me. Of the way the kid had looked at him once, weeks ago, like he was hoping someone might finally see him. Because nobody else will, Reaper said. Garrett nodded slowly. All right. Then we start with an emergency custody petition. I'll file it today. But there's something you need to know. What? There's someone else who might claim Marcus, Garrett said carefully. A relative. An aunt, actually. Her name is Patricia Holloway. She surfaced yesterday after seeing news coverage of the fire. Reaper frowned. Where the hell was she when Marcus was sleeping in warehouses? Good question, Garrett said. We'll find out. But if she contests your petition, this gets a lot messier. Reaper stood, leather creaking. Let her come. I'm not backing down. Garrett watched him head for the door, then called out, Reaper? He turned. For what it's worth, the lawyer said, I think you're doing the right thing. Just be ready. The right thing doesn't always win. Marcus woke slowly, like surfacing from deep water. Pain greeted him first, dull, throbbing, everywhere. His throat felt raw. His arms burned. His back screamed. He tried to move and couldn't. Panic spiked. Easy, kid. Easy. A voice. Deep. Familiar somehow. Marcus's eyes cracked open. Fluorescent lights stabbed at him. Shapes blurred, then sharpened. A man sat beside his bed. Big. Bearded. Leather vest. Reaper. You're in the hospital, Reaper said quietly. You've been out for 2 days. Don't try to talk. You've got a tube down your throat. Marcus's eyes widened. He tried to speak anyway, throat convulsing around the ventilator tube. Whoa, whoa, Reaper said, leaning forward. Stop. I'll tell you what you need to know. Marcus stilled, chest heaving. The fire, Reaper began. You went in. You got Lily out. You saved her life. Images flashed, smoke, flames, a little girl's terrified face. You got hurt, Reaper continued. Bad burns. But you're alive. And Lily's fine. Not a scratch on her because of you. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. Relief, maybe. Or pain. Hard to tell. Listen, Reaper said, voice low. I don't know what you've been through. I don't know why you were on the streets. But I know what you did for my kid, and I know the system's going to try to take you away. Marcus's brow furrowed. They want to put you back in a group home, Reaper said. But I'm not letting that happen. I'm filing for custody. Fighting to keep you with me and Lily. Marcus stared at him, disbelief clear even through the haze of pain. You don't have to say yes right now, Reaper said. But when you're ready, when you can breathe on your own and think straight, I'm going to ask you if you want a family. A real one. A tear slipped down Marcus's burned cheek. Reaper reached out, careful, and rested a hand on the boy's uninjured shoulder. You're not alone anymore, he said. Whatever happens next, you got me. You got Lily. You got the whole damn club if it comes to that. Marcus closed his eyes, fresh tears leaking out. For the first time in longer than he could remember, the hollow ache in his chest felt different. Not gone, but maybe, just maybe, starting to fill. Like and subscribe if you believe everyone deserves a second chance. The social worker arrived the next morning. Her name was Ellen Briggs. Mid-40s, gray suit, clipboard, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She swept into Marcus's room like she owned it, barely glancing at Reaper before turning her attention to the boy in the bed. Marcus Ferguson, she said briskly. I'm Ellen Briggs with Child Protective Services. I'm here to discuss your placement options once you're medically cleared. Marcus, now off the ventilator but still weak, said nothing. I understand you've been living on the streets, Ellen continued, flipping through papers. That ends now. We have a facility that specializes in trauma recovery for minors. You'll be transferred there as soon as possible. No, Reaper said. Ellen's eyes flicked to him. Excuse me. He's not going to a facility, Reaper said evenly. I'm filing for custody. Ellen's expression hardened. Mr. Martinez, I'm aware of your intentions, but the state has protocols. Marcus is a ward of California. You have no legal standing. I will by the end of the week, Reaper said. That remains to be seen. Ellen turned back to Marcus. Do you know this man? Marcus's eyes shifted between them. He nodded slowly. Has he made you any promises? Ellen asked. Offered you anything in exchange for cooperation? Marcus's jaw tightened. He shook his head. Ellen made a note. Marcus, you've been through a traumatic event. It's natural to feel grateful to Mr. Martinez. But gratitude isn't the same as family. Neither is a group home, Reaper said coldly. Ellen shot him a warning look. Mr. Martinez, if you continue to interfere. The door opened. A woman stepped in, late 30s, blonde hair in a tight bun, expensive coat. Behind her, a lawyer in a charcoal suit. I'm Patricia Holloway, the woman said, voice clipped. Marcus's aunt. And I'm here to take custody of my nephew. The room froze. Marcus's face went pale. Reaper's blood turned to ice. Ellen looked between them, then smiled, sharp and bureaucratic. Well, she said, this changes things. Patricia's gaze landed on Marcus like a hawk spotting prey. Hello, Marcus, she said sweetly. It's been a while. But don't worry, Auntie's here now. Marcus's hands clenched the bedsheets. And in that moment, Reaper saw it, the fear, the recognition, the way the boy's whole body went rigid like he'd just seen a ghost. Patricia wasn't here to save Marcus. She was here for something else entirely. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the fight ahead. Reaper's hand moved to Marcus's shoulder, a silent promise. Patricia's lawyer stepped forward, handing Ellen a stack of documents. Ms. Holloway has legal standing as next of kin, he said smoothly. We're filing for immediate custody transfer. The boy belongs with family. Ellen scanned the papers, nodding. This appears to be in order. Like hell it is, Reaper growled. Patricia smiled, cold and calculating. Mr. Martinez, she said, I appreciate what you tried to do. But Marcus is my blood. And blood always wins. Marcus's voice, hoarse and shaking, cut through the tension. No. Everyone turned. No. Marcus repeated, louder this time. I don't want to go with her. Patricia's smile faltered. Sweetheart, you're confused. You left me, Marcus said, voice breaking. When Mom died, you said you didn't want me. You called me a burden. Silence crashed down. Patricia's mask slipped for half a second, annoyance flashing in her eyes before the fake warmth returned. That was a difficult time, she said smoothly. But I'm here now, ready to make things right. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering something. Patricia nodded. There's also the matter of your mother's settlement, she added. The wrongful death lawsuit. Quite substantial, actually. Someone needs to manage it until you're 18. And there it was. The truth. She wasn't here for Marcus. She was here for the money. Reaper's vision went red. Get out, he said, voice dangerously low. Patricia's lawyer bristled. Mr. Martinez, you have no authority. I said get out. Ellen stepped between them. Everyone calm down. This will be settled in court, not a hospital room. Patricia's smile returned, sharp as a knife. See you at the hearing, Mr. Martinez, she said. May the best family win. She turned and swept out, lawyer in tow. Ellen gathered her things, avoiding eye contact. The hearing is scheduled for Friday, she said. Both parties will present their case. The judge will decide. She left. The door clicked shut. Reaper and Marcus sat in the heavy silence. She's gonna take me, isn't she? Marcus whispered. Reaper knelt beside the bed, meeting the boy's terrified eyes. Not if I have anything to say about it, he said. You hear me? You're not going back to her. Not to the streets. Not to anyone who sees you as a paycheck. But she's family, Marcus said, defeated. The judge will. The judge will hear the truth, Reaper interrupted. And the truth is you deserve better. You deserve a home. Safety. People who actually give a damn. Marcus's eyes searched his face. Why, he asked. Why do you care? Reaper thought of Lily asleep in the clubhouse. Of his wife's grave. Of all the times he'd failed to be the man she believed he could be. Because someone's gotta, he said simply. And it might as well be me. Marcus's lip trembled. Then, slowly, he reached out with his bandaged hand. Reaper took it, careful and firm. Okay, Marcus whispered. Fight for me. Reaper squeezed gently. Already am, kid, he said. Already am. Outside, storm clouds gathered. Friday was coming. And with it, a battle that would decide whether Marcus's second chance died in a courtroom or finally came home. The courtroom smelled like old wood and broken promises when Judge Catherine Moreno took the bench. Marcus sat in a wheelchair between two worlds, Patricia in her designer suit whispering about family, Reaper in his worn leather promising protection. What should have been a simple custody hearing became something else entirely when Garrett stood up with evidence that turned Patricia's smile into stone. Some battles are fought with fists. This one would be won with truth. And the truth about Marcus's aunt was darker than anyone expected, except maybe the detective who'd been digging through her past for 3 days straight. The courthouse stood like a gray tombstone against the Friday morning sky. Reaper adjusted his tie, borrowed from Tank, too tight around his neck, and glanced down at Lily. She wore a blue dress her mother had bought 2 years ago, now barely fitting. Her hand gripped his like she was afraid he'd disappear. "You ready, Lilybug?" he asked softly. She nodded, though her eyes betrayed her fear. "Is Marcus going to be okay?" "We're going to make sure of it," Reaper said. Behind them, the brothers waited, Tank, Crow, Diesel, Preacher, and a dozen others. They'd left their colors at the clubhouse, dressed in whatever clean shirts and pressed jeans they could scrape together. But their presence was unmistakable. Solidarity in silence. Garrett appeared at the courthouse steps, briefcase in hand, expression grim. "They're already inside," he said. "Patricia brought half a law firm. They're going to hit hard and fast. Paint you as unstable, the club as dangerous, Marcus as confused and traumatized." "Let them try," Reaper said. "There's something else," Garrett added. Detective Harris came through. He found something on Patricia. Something big. Reaper's eyes sharpened. "What?" "Not here," Garrett said. "I'll present it in court if the moment's right." "But Reaper, it's bad. Really bad." "Good," Reaper said coldly. They pushed through the heavy doors. Courtroom 4C was smaller than Reaper expected. Wood paneling. High ceiling. American flag in the corner. Rows of benches mostly empty except for Patricia's side. Immaculate, professional, calculated. Patricia sat at the plaintiff's table in a navy suit that probably cost more than Reaper's bike. Her lawyer, a sharp-eyed man named Donovan, shuffled papers with the confidence of someone who'd never lost. Marcus was wheeled in by a hospital attendant, still bandaged, still pale. His eyes found Reaper immediately. The relief was visible. Reaper mouthed, "I got you." Marcus nodded. Judge Catherine Moreno entered. Late 50s, gray hair pulled back, eyes that had seen every lie the system could produce. She sat, arranged her robe, and surveyed the room with the air of someone unimpressed by theatrics. "We're here for emergency custody determination in the matter of Marcus Ferguson, minor," she began. "Ms. Holloway, you're petitioning as next of kin. Mr. Martinez, you're petitioning as what exactly?" Garrett stood. "As concerned party and potential guardian, Your Honor. Mr. Martinez has already assumed financial responsibility for Marcus's medical care and wishes to provide long-term placement." Moreno's eyebrow arched. "That's unusual." "So is running into a burning building to save a stranger's child," Garrett replied. "Which is exactly what Marcus did for Mr. Martinez's daughter." The judge glanced at Marcus. "Is that true, son?" Marcus's voice came out raspy but steady. "Yes, ma'am." "And you were injured in the process?" "Yes, ma'am." Moreno made a note. "Ms. Holloway, your position?" Patricia's lawyer stood smoothly. "Your Honor, Ms. Holloway is Marcus's biological aunt. She has legal standing as next of kin. While we appreciate Mr. Martinez's enthusiasm, family law is clear. Blood relatives have priority in custody determinations." "Unless those relatives are unfit," Moreno said flatly. Donovan smiled. "Which Ms. Holloway certainly is not. She's a registered nurse, owns her home, has stable employment. She's more than capable of providing for Marcus." "Where was she 6 months ago?" Garrett asked. Donovan's smile tightened. "Irrelevant." "I'll decide what's relevant," Moreno said. "Ms. Holloway, why didn't you take custody when Marcus's mother passed?" Patricia stood, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue that appeared from nowhere. "Your Honor, I was grieving," she said, voice trembling. "My sister's death devastated me. I wasn't in a place mentally to care for a child. I thought the system would provide better support than I could at the time." "So you abandoned him," Reaper said from his seat. Moreno's gaze snapped to him. "Mr. Martinez, you'll speak when called upon." "Apologies, Your Honor," Reaper said, not sounding sorry at all. Patricia continued, gaining momentum. "I regret that decision every day, but I'm here now. I'm ready, and I want my nephew back where he belongs, with family." Moreno looked at Marcus. "How do you feel about that, Marcus?" Marcus's hands clenched the wheelchair armrests. I don't want to go with her." "Why not?" the judge asked gently. "Because she didn't want me before," Marcus said, voice cracking. "When Mom died, She said I was too much trouble. She said she had her own life and couldn't deal with a kid. Patricia's mask slipped for a fraction of a second, irritation flashing before the grief returned. Marcus, sweetheart, you were in shock. I wasn't in shock, Marcus said louder now. You told me to figure it out myself. You said I should be grateful for whatever the state gave me. Silence. Donovan cleared his throat. Your Honor, the boy is clearly traumatized and confused. The boy seems pretty clear to me, Moreno interrupted. She turned to Garrett. Mr. Reyes, what's your case for Mr. Martinez? Garrett stood, pulling out a folder. Your Honor, Mr. Martinez has demonstrated commitment to Marcus's well-being in ways Ms. Holloway has not. He's covered all medical expenses, over $180,000 to date. He's visited daily. He's filed for emergency custody despite knowing it would be an uphill battle. He's also a member of a motorcycle club with a criminal history, Donovan cut in. 3 arrests for assault, 1 weapons charge, multiple citations for disorderly conduct. This is not a stable environment for a vulnerable child. Those charges are years old, Garrett countered. Mr. Martinez has been clean for 3 years. He's a single father raising a well-adjusted daughter. He owns his home. He has steady employment. As a mechanic at a biker bar, Donovan said with disdain. Honest work, Garrett shot back. Moreno held up a hand. Enough. Mr. Martinez, stand. Reaper stood, feeling every eye in the room on him. Why do you want custody of this boy? Moreno asked. Reaper glanced at Marcus, then at Lily sitting in the gallery. Because he saved my daughter's life when I couldn't, Reaper said. Because he's got nobody else. Because the system already failed him once, and I'll be damned if I let it happen again. That's not a reason, Moreno said. That's guilt. Maybe, Reaper admitted. But it's also the truth. Marcus deserves a home. Safety. People who actually care if he lives or dies. I can give him that. Can you? Moreno asked. Can you handle a traumatized 14-year-old with extensive medical needs while raising your own daughter and working full-time? I'll figure it out, Reaper said. Same way I figured out single parenting when my wife died. You do what you gotta do. Moreno studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to Patricia. Ms. Holloway, I have a question. Patricia straightened. Of course, Your Honor. Marcus's mother had a wrongful death settlement. Substantial, I understand. Who manages that until Marcus turns 18? Patricia blinked. Well, as his guardian, I would. Manage a 6-figure settlement, Moreno finished. Interesting timing for your sudden interest in custody. Donovan jumped up. Your Honor, you're implying. I'm not implying anything, Moreno said coldly. I'm asking direct questions. Ms. Holloway, do you know the exact amount of Marcus's settlement? Patricia hesitated. I believe it's around $400,000. $437,000, Moreno corrected, reading from a document. And you're aware that as guardian, you'd have access to those funds for Marcus's care? For his care, yes, Patricia said carefully. That's what the money is for. Garrett stood. Your Honor, if I may. Moreno nodded. Garrett pulled out another folder. Detective Harris conducted a background check on Ms. Holloway at my request. What he found is concerning. He handed papers to the bailiff, who passed them to the judge. Ms. Holloway has $63,000 in credit card debt, Garrett said. 2 mortgages in default. An eviction notice filed last month. Her nursing license was suspended pending an investigation into missing medication from her former employer. Patricia's face went white. Like and subscribe to see justice unfold. Donovan was on his feet. Your Honor, this is documented fact, Garrett interrupted. Ms. Holloway isn't here for Marcus. She's here for his money. That's absurd. Patricia snapped, composure cracking. I'm his family. You're a stranger who wants a paycheck, Reaper said. Moreno's gavel cracked. Mr. Martinez. But the damage was done. Patricia's mask had shattered completely. Her lawyer was whispering urgently, but she wasn't listening. I have a right to that money. Patricia burst out. I'm family. It should have gone to me anyway. My sister owed me. The courtroom froze. Moreno's eyes turned to ice. Owed you, she repeated slowly. Patricia realized her mistake too late. I meant. You meant exactly what you said, Moreno said. You see Marcus's settlement as payment for something, not as his future. Your Honor, my client is upset, Donovan began. Your client just revealed her true motivation, Moreno said. She turned to Marcus. Son, do you want to live with your aunt? No, ma'am, Marcus said firmly. Do you want to go back into the foster system? No, ma'am. Do you want to live with Mr. Martinez? Marcus looked at Reaper, at Lily in the gallery, at the row of bikers who'd shown up for a kid they barely knew. Yes, ma'am, he whispered. Please. Moreno leaned back, considering. The seconds stretched like hours. Ms. Holloway, she finally said, your petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm ordering a full investigation into your finances and your relationship with Marcus's late mother. If fraud is suspected, the district attorney will be notified. Patricia's face went from white to red. You can't. I just did, Moreno said. Bailiff, please escort Ms. Holloway out. Patricia was dragged away, screaming about rights and lawyers and injustice. Her voice echoed down the hall until a door slammed, cutting her off. Silence settled over the courtroom. Moreno turned to Reaper. Mr. Martinez, I'm granting you temporary emergency custody of Marcus Ferguson, pending a full home study and background review. You'll meet with a social worker weekly. Marcus will receive counseling. And if I hear one word, one single report, of neglect or endangerment, I'll remove him so fast your head will spin. Understood? Yes, Your Honor, Reaper said, voice thick. This isn't a game, Moreno continued. This is a child's life. He's been through hell. He needs stability, not chaos. Can you give him that? Reaper looked at Marcus. The boy was crying, silent tears streaming down his burned cheeks. I'll die trying, Reaper said. Moreno's expression softened, just barely. Then we're done here, she said. Good luck, Mr. Martinez. And Marcus? Marcus looked up. You did good, son, she said. You saved a life. Now let someone save yours. The gavel fell. Hit like and subscribe if you believe in second chances. The courthouse steps felt different on the way out. Lighter somehow, like the weight pressing down on Reaper's chest had finally cracked. Marcus's wheelchair bumped over the threshold. Reaper guided him into the sunlight where the brothers waited. Tank grinning like an idiot, Crow wiping his eyes, Diesel nodding approval. Lily ran forward, throwing her arms around Marcus's neck. You're coming home, she said, voice muffled against his shoulder. Marcus hugged her back, careful of his burns, and broke down completely. Reaper knelt beside the wheelchair, one hand on Marcus's shoulder, the other on Lily's back. You okay, kid? He asked. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. You're part of this family now, Reaper said. For real. No takebacks. You got that. Marcus looked at him through tears. Why? Why would you do this for me? Reaper smiled, small, real, and maybe the first honest smile he'd worn since his wife died. Because somebody did it for me once, he said. And because you deserve it. Simple as that. Preacher stepped forward, resting a gnarled hand on Marcus's head. Welcome to the Brotherhood, kid, the old man said. You earned it the hard way. Tank clapped his hands together. All right. Who wants pancakes? I'm buying. You never buy, Crow said. Special occasion, Tank said with a grin. Kid beat the system. That deserves celebration. They moved as a group toward the bikes. Marcus wheeled along, Lily skipping beside him. Reaper flanked by men who'd become more than friends. Family. 3 months later, the house on Ridgewood Avenue looked different. Rebuilt from the fire, fresh paint, new windows. A ramp led up to the front door, temporary, until Marcus finished physical therapy. Inside, the smell of pancakes drifted from the kitchen where Lily was helping Reaper cook breakfast. Marcus sat at the table, scarring still visible on his arms, but healing. His hair had grown back. The nightmares came less often now. On the wall hung a photo, Marcus, Lily, and Reaper at the clubhouse, surrounded by brothers. Marcus wore a vest. Not full colors, not yet, but a simple patch that read Little Brother. Marcus, Lily called. Come help Flip. He stood, moving easier now, and joined them. Reaper handed him a spatula. You remember how? He asked. Yeah, Marcus said. You showed me last week. Good. You're on pancake duty from now on. Marcus smiled. A real one. the kind that reached his eyes. Later, after breakfast, after Lily ran off to play with the neighbor kids, Marcus and Reaper sat on the porch. The autumn air was crisp. Leaves skittered across the lawn. "Reaper," Marcus said quietly. "Yeah, kid." "Thank you." Reaper looked at him. At the boy who'd been a ghost 6 months ago, who'd run into fire without hesitation, who'd fought through pain and fear in a system designed to chew him up. "You don't gotta thank me," Reaper said. "You're family now. That's what we do." Marcus nodded, throat tight. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the street wake up. Down the block, Tank's bike rumbled past, horn honking twice. A greeting. A reminder. Brotherhood doesn't end. It just grows. Somewhere in the house, Lily laughed. And for the first time and longer than Marcus could remember, the hollow ache in his chest was gone. Filled not with things or money or promises, but with something simpler, stronger, and infinitely more valuable. Home. Like and subscribe if this story touched your heart. 6 months after that, Marcus stood in the clubhouse, leather vest fitting perfectly now. The brothers had voted unanimously, full membership when he turned 18, but the title Little Brother was his for life. Reaper clapped him on the shoulder. "Your mom would be proud," he said quietly. Marcus's eyes stung. "You think?" "I know," Reaper said. "You're everything she hoped you'd be. Strong. Brave. Good." Marcus looked around the room. At Tank arm wrestling Diesel. At Crow teaching Lily a card trick. At Preacher holding cord in the corner. At the family he'd found in fire and blood and second chances. "Reaper," he said. "Yeah. I found something. In the basement of the old house. Before the fire." Reaper frowned. "What?" Marcus pulled out a photo, creased, old. It showed Patricia and a man Marcus didn't recognize standing outside Reaper's house. The date stamp read 1 week before the fire. Reaper's blood went cold. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "I was looking through your storage boxes," Marcus said. I think the fire wasn't an accident." Reaper took the photo, jaw tight. He thought of the electrical fire, of the timing, of Patricia's sudden appearance, of how convenient it was that Marcus's settlement would have been managed by her if he'd died. "Detective Harris needs to see this," Reaper said slowly. Marcus nodded. They stood together, uncle and nephew now in every way that mattered, staring at evidence of something darker. "What do we do?" Marcus asked. Reaper looked at him, at the scars on his arms, at the strength in his eyes. "We finish it," Reaper said. "Some debts get paid in full." Marcus's smile was cold. "Good," he said. Outside, engines roared. The Brotherhood was ready. And this time, the fight wasn't just about custody. It was about justice.